pony knowledge by. Oh, better. I got a place where winning ain't tough to do. You wanna be cool, stable do. Your horse racing fantasy come true. But no, stable do.
Download the Stable Duel app and play today.
Joey Cleveland tells us to do it, then we need to do it. Download that Stable Duel app and play today. Gino Vicola here and the sniper, Barry Spears. We'll be without our buddy Matt DeSantis just for this week. Matty's always with us, but we'll pretend like it's professional and say Matt's out on assignment this week. As we get ready to help you out with some Keeneland action for Friday and for Saturday. Barry, my friend, how you doing this week?
Hanging in there, it's the end of what I thought was a long week, but there's winners to be had and money to be made.
Rocking the Mets, I believe, up there. Max Scherzer having some fun with some sticky stuff on his hand this week. It's so great. So funny with that stuff and just hearing him respond after that. It's one of those fun times in sports, as we mentioned. We're only a few weeks away from the Kentucky Derby, 2 weeks away from the Derby right now. We're in the basketball playoffs. We're in the hockey playoffs. Baseball is going on. It is a fun time to be a sports fan. And this weekend with Stable Duel, we have Keeneland racing, we have Gulfstream racing, we have Santa Anita racing. You can play contests at all three of those tracks today. Then for Saturday, Keeneland will be a big focus. They also have the jump races, Barry. It's a free ride with the Middleburg jump races. So that'll be fun. $2,000 in prizes too. I mean, when you can play into contest for cash prizes and you never have to enter, that's a nice way to build your bankroll.
Hell yeah. Free money. It's free money.
Free money.
It's there.
So
What can you say?
We'll do our best to help you out with Keeneland this weekend for Friday and for Saturday. And not only is there, big money with Stable Duel today, as I pull up the Keeneland past performances from DRF.com, there's an $859,000 carryover in the pick six today. At Keeneland. You usually don't see the pick sixes carry over. It's a dollar-based wager. There have been some big prices. Could be a massive pool in that carryover today, Barry.
Yeah, it should be a few million. So it's going to be an exciting Friday, to say the least. And if it carries into Sunday, just watch out.
Ooh. Okay, well, Barry and I are going to do our best for you. Let's start at Keeneland. And Barry, you're going to start early in the card. You're going to take a look at race number 2. Race number 2 will go right around 1:30 or so Eastern. We'll go a mile and a 16th on the main track. You've got maiden 50 claimers in here. Tell us who you're looking at in this one.
I'm going to throw one downfield early, at least morning line wise. I'm going to take number 5, My Spirit. And the reason being, this horse hasn't gotten on a fast main track yet. That's one of the reasons. Started his career off out at Oaklawn, didn't run very well on a good track going a mile. Lost to Sun Thunder and King Russell, who are pretty good horses.
Yeah.
And was actually kind of bet that day too. My Spirit was. Then, something went wrong, or I don't know what happened, but ends up on the turf at Gulfstream next time, which is in March 12th. And didn't really do all that much running. And I didn't suspect they would think that this horse would be a grass horse. But since that race on the grass, has 3 works and each time getting better. And I think with the switch to Luis Saez on the dirt, I think they're going to try to go and push the pace here. There doesn't seem to be a lot of speed in this race. And all they have to do is get out in front, and I think that kind of secures them a nice spot to kind of finish this race off, because there really isn't any speed. But Louis savvy enough to if there's other horses coming up there, to just back out a little bit. But as long as this horse is up front, getting the makeover package, the whole 9, I think this one has a good shot.
This is the type of horse I like too, where there's a little something there. You have excuses for both. get an equipment change here. Like you said, a little makeover package, second start off the bench, put 2 together, just hope for a little more aggressive ride from Saez. My Spirit, 20-1 on the morning line. Big price right off the bat for you in stable duel. It won't cost you, what, $20 in your stable duel? In your stable duel lineup. So My Spirit, 20-1. Big price for Barry right off the bat. Okay, buddy, let's see. Where am I going to go? I'm going to go to race number 4 as we take a look at. This is a horse who I've actually given out before. I'm pretty sure on this show a while ago when the horse was running in Southern California. I'm talking about the number 2 Autism Community for Jonathan Wong, who is a really good barn. This is a really good conditioner who's been winning some races now out at Keeneland that didn't send a whole lot out there, but already with a couple wins at the meet. So I like the pattern of this horse. The debut race at Golden Gate was sneaky good. This horse missed the break, came from way, way out of it. I'm pretty sure we played this horse the second time when it was at Del Mar, when he came down to Southern California. And it wasn't a bad effort. She was just a little slow. She finished 4th in a field of 12. Comes back on the 30th at Santa Anita, and she runs into Ancient Peace. This horse is pretty nice. Came back when the race was taken off the turf recently, won by 6 with an 83 Beyer speed figure. So I think she's faced a little tougher company in a couple of the races in Southern California. Then on March the 23rd, she's in the 2 path. She's at Turfway, and she's in a race that's won by a wire-to-wire winner. In fact, she finishes 4th in that race. And if you just look at the chart quickly, like if you watch the race, you'll notice it was a merry-go-round race. The top 3 finishers were sitting 1, 2, 3 throughout the race. So there was no passing in there at all. It's sort of a nice sharpener to get her ready for this start. Second off the bench here. I think she's got the chance to take one little step forward in her second start at 3. 6-1 on the morning line for a good barn, flying a little bit under the radar here. This is actually going to be her first start on traditional dirt as well. We've seen her run well on synthetic. We've seen her run well on the turf. So I don't think the surface should be a problem for her. I'll throw her in, Barry, 6-1. So she'll cost us $5,000 in our stable dual lineup. And this will be right before that pick 6 is going to kick off. So you
Actually, now that you say this, I'd like to pick your brain a little bit.
Please.
How do you treat horses typically coming from synthetic to dirt? Is there certain ones like you kind of gravitate to for certain reasons, or is it just like?
Yeah, it's individual. Like this horse particularly doesn't have like anything on the dirt pedigree to go off. The problem is there wasn't anything really strong enough for or against pedigree that stood out. Like I didn't see, best way of putting it, some horses you'll look at and they look like they could only be a turf horse, right? Dam, pedigree, like all their direct siblings on grass success. Then I probably wouldn't look at horses that much on the dirt. Horse like this, who I think has run a fine on both. I'm going to give Autism Community a little bit of a look. It doesn't really concern me. And nobody in this race, it's another one of those, scares the heck out of me.
Right.
There's no monsters that I think will overwhelm this one who has a little bit of experience. So
yeah. No, I was just curious because I always have a difficult time trying to evaluate that portion.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's one of those sort of case by case things you'd have to determine, but we'll try to get you a little money made before that pick 6 starts. So race number 4, the 2 Autism Community, will be $5,000 in your stable dual lineup. Barry, you're going to go to race number 6, I believe, right?
Yeah, and this horse that I'm going to give out here, I wasn't too sure I was going to give this horse out, because it's kind of a feast or famine type play, almost similar to the first one I gave out actually. But this one really is a kind of, this horse will win or not finish close. So make of that what you will.
Sure.
But
maybe a horse to throw in your pick 6 and maybe to be a little bit more trepidatious with for stable duel, right? If it's just a horse to toss in and it doesn't, then it won't necessarily hurt you if it runs poorly. It depends on where you are in stable duel, though. Who are
Yeah,
you
it's
looking?
tough. That's what I mean. These horses are tough. That's why I wasn't too sure about giving this one out, but hey, it's Friday.
We got
Why
to.
not?
We got to. We're friends here. We're
Yeah,
friends.
no judging, right?
hmm Speaking of, this is a circle of trust right here. This is a safe. This is the
We're in the
safe
trust
zone.
tree.
I was gonna say, what happened to the tree? We're in the trust. What happened? What on with
Yeah, but
that?
this is a start allowance for 50,000, going 6.5 on the main, and I'm gonna go with number 6, American Icon, who's 20-1 on the morning line. Probably
Just
be
coming
every
out with
bit of
some
that.
big prices this morning. I love it. I
Now you
love
got to
it.
hear me out on this one.
Okay.
Now you see the horse's current form is garbage, just completely garbage. Like ever since this horse went to synthetic, he just got pummeled. Except for the one time this horse ran coming from behind in an allowance race. Ran a weird number. Don't know where that came from, but I'm throwing them all out. All those synthetic efforts gone. Then you look at the one before that, November 27th on the sloppy main track at Churchill. Not what this horse wants to do. I just don't think this horse wants to go far. So you can wipe out those next two uh, distance races, one in mile and 16th on the slop, one at a mile. But if you look at the rest of his races and the 6 furlong ones or the ones going less than a mile,
Yeah. The
this
six
horse
and a
has potential here. And
yes.
especially with a speed rider like Edgar Morales, and not much speed to be accounted for in this race. I think this horse could kind of try to pop the gate and try to take him as far as he can go
I
at a
like this is
huge
sneaky.
price.
This is a sneaky one here. American Icon, which sort of sounds like a name for like a wrestler, what they would call someone, right? Like the
Yeah,
American Icon.
yes,
Like, like
absolutely. Like almost Dusty Rose, the
yeah,
American
I was
Dream.
gonna say you got the American Dream, you've got the Icon Sting. You had some like living legends there. It's just kind of a combination of all of them. The American Icon, Barry Spears is going to become an American Icon if he gets you one of these 20-1 shots home right off the
Yeah, I
bat.
mean, but seriously, if you look at this horse's races at February 22nd, December 26th, 2021,
That
they
race
fit here.
fits. They
They
fit.
both
They
fit here.
absolutely
Yeah.
do. The sprint race is there. The November 27th, the November 16th even isn't the mile race. And going back, the October race is in a little too tough, but the debut races are not bad either. This
Yeah, I think that they just didn't run this horse in the right spot for a while.
and when you get a horse like this that's off and they're big prices, like this is when you want to catch them before they come
Mhm.
back and throw those good race or two in. Because if this horse runs second or third, then the next couple times you'll not be able to catch that kind of a price. So American Icon, the 6 in race number 6. I'll move right next door to race number 7. This one is a maiden special weight going 6.5 furlongs on the dirt. And I like the 5 a bit in here. This one is Magical Loot. So Magical Loot debuts on July the 4th of last year at Churchill and runs in a race that comes back very strong so far. We've already had a couple next out winners in there. Friendly Persuasion, who has since won a race by 10 lengths. We
Mm.
had High Fashion Lady also in there come back to win. And was not a very good beginning. Brutal start for this horse, but sort of recovered well, moves through the inside, comes from about eight lengths off, weaving in some traffic, finishes second. Off for a little bit, shows back up in September, but then goes longer. And in that race on September the 16th, this horse got shuffled back badly. It really badly, if you watch the replay, was sitting in a good spot and then just in between horses, shuffled. And another race that came back live. That Akuta won their next start and is now 2 for 2. Moon Magic Chrissy came back to win their next start. So both races have been live and produced multiple next out winners. Magical Loot in the debut had some trouble to start and came running. And then on September the 16th, it was almost the opposite. The horse stretched out, showed a little bit more speed, but got pushed and shuffled all the way back. Now, this is a filly who has not run since September, but this is a barn who's certainly capable of getting horses ready to rock off the bench. And Barry, now we're going to have some of that built-in
Yes.
maturity from 2 to 3. She can sit off, and I like the fact that she's cutting back from a mile to 6.5, because even though she has not run in a while, this shouldn't be a distance that's too demanding for her with the bit of foundation that she has. So I
Yeah,
think it's a
absolutely.
good spot for Midnight Loot, like a magical loot. I mean, the 5 who's in this real important race. This is in the pick 6, pick 5 also starts the late pick 4, and at 8-1 will only cost you 3,000 in your stable duel lineup.
I really like the work pattern for this horse. I mean, just
Steady as can
steady
be.
like clockwork, and these are the kind of horses that you can kind of project a little bit to improve off the layoff, and that's exactly what you want to see in a race like
Everything was
this.
smooth, firing on
Mhm.
all cylinders. They could build up just like they wanted. No interruptions where you see, oh, maybe there was some bad weather that day because they had to miss a work, or maybe what happened, there was a gap of 3 weeks in between. Nothing like that. End of February, and then just boom, like every 7 days, another work, another work, another work, coming into this ready to ready to be fit and at a nice price. Magical Loot, the number 5. So I have 2 more on the card for Friday. Barry has another one in race number 8. So we'll just we'll finish off the card for you right here. We'll go races 8, 9, and 10. Talk to us about race number 8, my friend. We'll look at a third level allowance, mile and a 16th on the turf.
Yeah, this is a really tough race. A lot of good horses coming from all different directions here. I'm gonna go with number 8, Trail Ridge Road. Um, I think you can forgive that last race. I know it's kind of tough because a lot of the fairgrounds horses haven't really been running all that great at this meet at Keeneland. Um, but I think the turf horses you could kind of make an exception for because it was so bad. And this horse actually managed to get a win over that turf, albeit from the outside, which was probably the best place to be there.
Yeah,
Like, the outside rail, funny enough, was probably the best place to be. Um, but yeah, you throw out that last race, which was a 100K stake, and drops into this spot, which really isn't a drop in, I guess. It was worth more than the stake race
yeah, you're right, right.
she was in last time. But I think the numbers, the turf races beyond the last one all fit here. This horse has been
Absolutely.
steadily on the improve. Pratt jumps on, which was really kind of interesting because he doesn't really ride a lot for Chris Block.
No, and
Um,
he's starting to ride well again, right? He struggled a little bit at the beginning of the year, but he's had a good start to the meet.
yeah, absolutely. And I think this horse fits in this spot. Should have enough pace to run it. I don't think this one's going to be that far off the pace, and should get first run. And I think we're going to get it home.
Trail Ridge Road. How about Barry today coming with 15, 20, and 20-1 shots for
Although
Friday?
I think this one is definitely not going to be anywhere.
Yeah, this one feels
I
more
think
like
this was going to be half
eight,
that, like 8-1,
yeah,
7 or 8-1.
8 to 10. Yeah, if you could get in that like between 6 and 10, that feels about fair for Trail Ridge Road.
But
Big
stable
price that.
duel, it's a win.
Oh, absolutely. This one's a nice play for Stable Duel there in the 8th. Let's finish up with a couple for you. First up in race number 9, this is a double dog dare, and I'll give you a horse that can help you out because I think a lot of people will probably spend up. You have Green Up, who was actually favored in the cotillion last year over some really nice horses coming off 100 buyer speed figure in the Catherine Sophia. You have Interstate Daydream, who won the Black Eyed Susan last year and has really never run a bad race in her entire career. She will probably improve second start off the bench. So she makes a lot of sense. She fits really well. And the 7 Hidden Connection will also take some money. But I'm not going to go to any one of them. I'm actually going to go to the rail horse, Traverse, who's, overall, you kind of dive into her career. She's not done much wrong. Her first 3
Seriously.
races are all on synthetic, all in big fields of 12, 11, and 11. She doesn't run poorly in any of those races. She's third. She comes back with 4th place finishes and back-to-back starts. She changes barns and she gets to the dirt for the first time. She wins at Churchill. Then they put her in a first level allowance. She wins there at 11-1. And she's got a little positional speed, but she has no problem sitting off behind horses either. She goes and tries the Pippin. Legitimate trouble that day, a brutal trip, nowhere to go. You can put a line right through that race because she comes back in her next two and then wins really impressively. I know she's going to have to step up if she wants to compete with, the best that Green Up or maybe the best that Interstate Daydream has to offer. But Barry, she's a newly turned 4-year-old. And if she's stepped up in her last two races, she's shown improving speed figures. Can she take one more step forward here and, put her right into contention with Green Up and with Interstate Daydream? I think so. And she's a much, much better price, especially in a stable duel situation.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to try to beat a horse like Interstate Daydream here. I really don't like this horse in that race, particularly myself, because I don't think that Interstate Daydream can get much better than she already is.
Yeah, kind of shown that peak form
Right.
so far.
I think she's plateaued, and as from a buyer perspective, I think 93, 94 is probably her ceiling. I don't think she can run faster than that. And you have horses like Traverse coming into this race in good form and improving. This horse could probably actually run faster.
Yeah, I think so too.
And this is the right spot to do it. There's enough pace. There's enough going on where this race could get a little chaotic, and a horse like Traverse could be on top when it's all said and done.
And we'll give you one more. And this is one
yeah.
that we've all used before, and we know our buddy Mooncat.
See, I didn't use Mooncat here. I didn't.
So let me talk you all into Mooncat a little bit. Mooncat debuted on December the 24th, and we liked Mooncat on January the 7th because this is a horse who's bred really well for the turf. He was the son of Fantacola. Fantacola was a horse who ran out here in Southern California and was a legit graded stakes horse, won the Grade 2 Royal Airwin. We saw in Grade 1 races as a Grade 1 placed horse and was multiple graded stakes. Very, very nice going along on the turf and had some direct siblings with some turf success. So we see Mooncat show that improvement on the turf in career start number 2. Then in the third start, February 4th, they stepped him up and they put him in the Kitten's Joy. And this race was on a good turf course. He didn't pick up his feet at all. Not only was it on a good turf course, but it was also a pretty strong race. Like you start going through the field, Major Dude was second in the Jeff Ruby Stakes. Candidate is a legitimate graded stakes horse, came back and ran into Transylvania after finishing second in the Kitten's Joy. He's had to deal with Dude in Colorado multiple times. Dude in Colorado is a stakes winner and graded stakes placed. Congruent won one of the prep races, the Battaglia, out at Turfway. I believe we've played Congruent a few times in some of these turf stakes races when it ran third and fourth there. So, you look at this race that was pretty strong and it was on a good turf course and he just didn't run that day. So, okay, maybe he wasn't quite as good as we thought. But on March 11th, he comes back and he runs into Far Bridge, who is a really nice horse for Christophe Clement. Far Bridge has won twice and earned an 88 buyer in both of those victories. And in his last start, it was like he wasn't even really like asked for a lot. He could have done a lot more than what he needed to if they would have like had to get under him. But when you see that Mooncat ran 6th in this race, I think it's one of those situations where people are like, okay, the race wasn't that good. Watch the difference between 2nd and 6th for Mooncat in this race. He's the number 4 here. So a little bit of bump at the start, but right after the start, he takes back in a little bit of traffic, and then watch right here. Boom. Takes a bad step, loses a lot of momentum. And now instead of being like in with the rest of the group, he's going to have to settle way to the back. And then as they go into the first turn, he's dead last because the horse to the outside moves up and he's got nowhere to go to his inside. So he's in that bad spot that you don't like being. And it wasn't really the fault of the rider or anything. The horse just took a really bad step and sort of put him in this spot. So now he's sort of pinned down here by the back, nowhere to go. Another major positive for him in today's race, the blinkers are coming on. So that could help him just get a little bit more focus and keep him just a little bit straighter early on in the race. Now, settling towards the rear, and the race slows down a little bit here in the half mile splits, but Mooncat starts to really move into contention nicely. We're going to see him right about here. You'll start to see the 4 come into contention. I think first the 9 looms in, and there's a horse right behind, and here comes the 4 following right up the inside. Now this horse has got some momentum, and all of a sudden it looks like, okay, this horse is getting a bit of a trip inside. Cuts the corner, and he's going to try to follow Far Bridge, who's the 9. So watch the split that Far Bridge gets. Here comes the 4, trying to get right in between horses again. Watch the 6 come over. Nowhere to go for the 4. And the 4's got to alter course and come around. Look at the difference between 2nd and 6th for Mooncat. Honestly, Mooncat was never going to beat Far Bridge, but could Mooncat have hit that hole with the momentum and maybe been right there with like the 3 and the 1? And if this horse is 2nd or 3rd in this race instead of 6th, probably looks a lot better on paper. Look at how good the race came back, too. As far as speed figures are concerned, that figure fits pretty well with this group, Barry. And I think it may be one of those things where I know this horse, Mooncat, because we've played him. And so I gave this horse a second look. Maybe not. Maybe I wouldn't have if I didn't know Mooncat. And at 15-1, saves all the ground. The blinkers on. We know Johnny V will probably be looking for a victory or two here because he just got his first win at the meet. In the last couple days, he was about 0 for 18 or so to start.
Yeah, this is a good pick. Well, I'll go to my pick. This will show you the contrast of how different people approach the races, because you went really in depth into the past performances of each race for Mooncat. And those races relatively well. Me, on the other hand, I'm going to go a different route, and it's mostly because of the pace scenario I saw that might develop in this kind of race, or not this kind of race, this actual race. I only saw one speed horse here, or you could say semi-speed horse. I guess Read On is the 10, but that's not my pick. I think the horse, my pick, the 4 Two-Way Crossing, is the horse that's going to pop the gate here.
Nice.
And I think the switch to Louis Saez is the tip off to that kind of trip. If the 10 so happens to get in front of this horse, that's not the worst thing in the world.
No.
But I'd like to see this horse kind of get really good position up front. His last race on February 11th, he lost to Web Slinger, who we all know is a pretty decent horse. Probably
this horse ran not a bad race that day.
No, he ran good, and it's sneaky because he didn't finish, 4th, basically.
Right. Yep.
It would look a lot better if that 5 on the end of that last race was a 4.
Yep.
But since it's a 5, he gets a 12-1, morning line, and kind of gets overlooked, I think. And I think this horse has some speed. I think Louis is going to have him right in the right spot. Whether he wins or not, that's up to him. But I'm going to take a shot here with that one, and probably going to use Mooncat in exotics also. And multis.
Again, just the 3 races, this horse is beautifully bred for the grass.
Yeah,
wins
absolutely.
A turf debut going 7 on a good turf course. Not easy to do. So right away there's talent. They throw him in a stakes race going 1 mile and 1/8 in his second start. And, it's at the end of the year, maybe a little too much to ask. Gone for a few months, shows back up in February. And then following the February race, what's nice, you're off for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Then you just come right back. And then you're working. It's not really that long of a layoff. Like since February 11th, back on February the 25th, March 5th, March 10th, March 18th, March 24th, March 31st, April 8th, April 15th.
Steady.
This horse has been out on the track the whole time since. So we're basically in a second start back situation to second start at 3, coming off the turf race that wasn't a win. Another thing you like actually improved the speed figure, right?
Yes, indeed.
Moving from 2 to 3. So you feel like, gosh, there's probably another built-in step forward here with two-way crossing. We've got you a 15 to 1 and a 12 to 1 shot to close it out. How about Barry? 20, 20, 15, and 12. Some big prices. And what's great, you only need to hit one of those.
That's
You
it.
only need one of them. And if you're someone who plays like exactas and tries and stuff, you only need one of those horses to be in the money for you to build around. And same type of thing the other day. I posted a video for Wednesday, and I had 4 stable dual plays. They were all horses that were like 8 to 1 and above. Only one of them won, but in stable duel was great. They were first, third, and fourth. All of them got you
Perfect.
positive points because they were huge prices, So for those 4 horses, if you use the 4 of them, you could have got like 125, 130 points, and you had $45,000 left to spend.
Right,
You could
on
spend
favorites or whatever.
or whoever.
that you
I
like.
think I had told Kenneth was someone who asked me, how did you do that in that lineup? I said, my problem was all the horses I spent up on were no good. I got -30, -30, and -10 with a few of them, and I was done. But hopefully for some of you out there, you could use 1 or 2 of those in a race, in a spot that you didn't feel confident or comfortable. And that's the same thing today with the horses that Barry gave you. It will not cost you a whole lot to use any of them in your stable dual lineup. Hopefully we can get you 1 or 2 of those horses for Friday home, as you have a couple different Friday stable dual options for Keeneland. There's a winner take all, a $5 game, and then there's a $25 game. So 2 different contests, or you can head to Barry's neck of the woods at Gulfstream, or you can head to mine over at Santa Anita. They have different games if you want to play over there. And next week, we'll open it up a little bit more. We'll give you some more Santa Anita, some more Keeneland, and some more Gulfstream plays. But today we'll focus a little bit more on Keeneland as we turn the page from Keeneland Friday to Keeneland Saturday. Barry, as we turn the page, let everybody know, have you guys talked about any of your plans, or do you know what you're going to be doing for some of the Derby coverage for Big Mondays for Going in Circles with Chuck Simon?
Yeah, we're probably gonna do like a preview show.
Nice.
We haven't finalized anything yet, but we usually do that. We've done it the last couple of years, so I don't think we're gonna deviate from that. And then I'm sure we'll both be popping up on other.
Oh yeah, I haven't told you
Yeah.
yet either, but you're going to be on my show too, by the way.
All right,
yeah,
that's what's up. Yeah, it's like,
I was going to say
auto invite, right?
Yeah, I was gonna
Automatically.
say, at this point now, it's just like, oh yeah, by the way, you're Ricky Henderson. You're always leading off on my show
right.
for the last few years.
I should have worn my A's hat.
We've always known that. So yeah, we have 2 weeks from today will be Oaks Day. And the way we've done it the last few years, where we won't have a show on that Friday because a lot of the Oaks and Derby stuff, unfortunately, isn't covered in the stable duel, in your stable duel stuff. But I'll make sure to post some plays earlier in the week, and we'll tell you about those contests. And Barry and Matt will definitely both be joining me on my show. That's what G Said podcast, and I'll post the conversations right here on social media where we go over one of the undercard races, and then I get the chance to talk with both of my buddies about the Oaks and the Derby and see who they like there. So, okay, let's get to our next look at Saturday. Keeneland.
Funny enough, you were talking about you missed with your favorites or the horses you spent up on, and I always tell people I'd rather miss with favorites than miss with long shots. That's really what you're here for. At least I am anyway, to hit longer priced horses. And
absolutely,
missing with favorites isn't that bad as long as you have the horse that beats them.
Right? Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it doesn't bother me as much, when like a short price beats me.
Right. Yeah.
Either because it's
you pay, let's say, a 15 to 1 shot and you get beat by a 4 to 5. It's
right.
Like, okay, whatever.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like,
not
but
gonna bother me.
If you pick, let's say, a 2 to 1 shot and you get beat by a 20 to 1, that hurts.
That's
To me, it does.
especially
I'm
when
mad.
especially because
That
the
gets me
way that
mad.
we play, right? Because
Right.
that's the way we are, and we're
Exactly.
going,
We
oh my
angle that
gosh,
way.
in that
Like,
race, it
how
was
did
like,
we
where,
miss that one?
what did we couldn't we find there? So tell us, what can we find in race number 4 today? 7 furlongs on the dirt, or this is for tomorrow. This is for Saturday.
Yes, Saturday. Yeah. So the last race that we covered on Friday, I was basically talking about speed. Now we're going to talk about a closer, and I think this is one of those situations where we might have a lone closer type situation, and I don't think this horse can be, or it needs to be too far off the pace in order to win, which is perfect for Keeneland because you can't close from way
No.
downtown there. It just doesn't happen. I ended up on number 6, Greener Pastures, at 12-1, and this horse has some races that can win this. Namely, November 26th at or 2021 at
Yep.
Churchill is one of them. There's another one at Churchill, May 30th, 2022.
Yeah, only beating
That
a
that
length
that
that
would be
day.
right there. Yeah, so it's not like this horse is a slouch here, but there's an awful lot of speed. Gunnet probably will want to be forwardly placed. Silk Trade has to go to the front. Legal Deal's probably going to be right there. Market Analysis probably would want the lead. New Bomb probably has the best chance of going fast. Pole Setter definitely wants to go to the front, and that's everybody. I mean, literally, they all want to go.
Yep.
And I think that Greener Pastures can sit a good trip right behind all of that speed. I mean, because obviously not all of them are going to line up, 6 across. I mean, it's possible, but I don't think that's going to happen because some of them may not be fast enough. Uh, but
And what
Greener
happened
Pastures, I think, sits in the right spot here.
what happened too, you'll see he's run okay enough on the synthetic for them to give him another race or two on the synthetic, right?
Hmm.
When they've tried him on it. So coming off the January 27th race, that was his first start since June. Put him on the synthetic. He runs 4th that day. Not a bad race. So they give him one more. I don't know if I think he's a better dirt horse, right?
Yeah,
So
you definitely you can see that in his past performance. He's definitely run better
so
on
you can
on
see, like,
traditional dirt.
if he didn't run 4th on the synthetic that day and they knew that he was okay there, who knows if they give him another shot on it, but they do. And so now you have a couple races that probably aren't as good as they could be on paper. The race also has come back as a live race with the winner, Mischievous Rogue, coming back to just win at Keeneland, earning a 93 buyer on the turf course. So that's a major positive for this horse. And again, dishing out some nice prices. Greener Pastures, 12-1 on the morning line for Barry. 3rd start of the form cycle. You start getting lots of little things for a horse like this too.
Hmm.
And that's what makes you feel good as a horse player. Very capable Michael McCarthy here for Greener Pastures. So that's a look at race number 4. I'm going to go right next door to the 5th. And I will mention more so of my overall approach in this race, in exotics and in stable duel. I'm against the 3, Mise en Scene. Totally against the 3 in here, who actually played in the juvenile Phillies turf 2 years ago. This was my play
Yeah, I
in
had
the
that one on
Breeders'
my
Cup.
ticket too.
Yeah. And if you just look, this to me is one of those horses that was really precocious and was very good early on and just has not been able to take a step forward again.
Hmm.
After the Breeders' Cup race in 2021, the 2022 form was not very good, was facing softer. The best race came against way softer company than this horse had been facing before and had been competitive against. Came over in the Filly and Mare turf. The race actually looks better than it was because she ran 6th. She was never in
Never a
contention
threat.
or in
Yeah.
it at all anywhere. She just split the field when some other horses backed up because they were chasing in Italian. She was fine. She was there. And then her last start, she was 4-1. She took money in the American Oaks. Now she's actually going to be facing older company also. And I just think she's going to be way over bet. And if she wins, it's going to be too short. So by tossing her out, it just opens this race wide up for me exotically. I think there's absolutely no speed in this race at all.
Zero.
None. I mean, I'm not even kidding. I don't know who's going to be on the lead. People would
I
probably think the 7, but it's not as if this horse has been fast.
No, I
The
think the 4 might.
right? Like
That's a
it's
stretch.
me too. Me too. The 4 so I would be looking at this race like if you're playing the pick 5, I'm chucking the 3 and I'm playing the 4, the 7, the 8, the 2 outside horses who I think have a little bit of upside, but the horse who's the price that I like a little bit is the 1. Uh,
Uno, yeah, it
you
looks
know,
doesn't look that bad.
no, this horse has some upside. The races at Hawthorne might have been against a little bit softer company, but they're all good. And then what I like is you go over to fairgrounds and sort of test, do you belong with a little bit tougher? Well, she steps up. She was behind just dawdling fractions. Like we said, that turf course was so funky. I mean, you see the 52s and 53s to the half mile repeatedly, but she's been on firm yielding and good turf courses also in 4 starts, like 3 different style turf courses, should be able to save all the ground in here. And honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if just because of the rail draw, that actually has her at least in the top half of this field because there's just no speed. Like if she just gets out of the gate, it can sit in the top half from the inside. She might naturally be a little quicker than some of these. So my main approach is chuck the 3, but I would throw the 1 in stable duel. And maybe the way you play this race is you sort of watch the race as it gets closer to post time and you see who floats up. And if the 3 takes a lot of money and one of these other horses does, you might be able to bet them, that time. Stable duel wise, I'm playing the 1 for sure. I think at a
Yeah.
big price, doesn't cost you anything. So we're getting you 15, 20, 20 to 1 shots all up and down the Friday and Saturday card. You head to the 7th race next, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, talk to us about race number 7. It's a second level allowance.
Yeah, very young horses here, 3-year-olds. None of them really have run all that much. And this is another one that the pace scenario favors the horse that I'm going to select, and that's number 5, Zapple.
Oh, you and me, baby. We're together. We're on
Yeah,
Zaffle. Here we
yeah.
go.
I think Socially Selective has every right to win this kind of race, but I think this is a lot more competitive than it looks like on paper.
Yep.
Obviously, Unsung Melodies has a lot of speed and quickness. So does the 7.
The 1
And
probably from the rail is going to be
yeah,
forced a little bit too, and that may even speed things up.
right, as well as the 6.
Yep.
I don't think the 6 wants to be too far off it. And
No.
then, kind of Zappo falls into that second flight in a good spot. Provided he can keep the 4 pinned down, I think he's going to sit a good trip.
So the debut on the slop at Ellis shows the ability to have some positional speed in that race, right?
Absolutely.
Shows a little more speed than the next 2 races might look like. They go in a stakes race in the second start and just put a line through the August 14th race. Doesn't really get involved, backs up that day. So March the 10th is her first start back since August. So you feel like she'll probably need that race. Well, she's close up, a lot closer than it might look if on the running line, and she gets shuffled back badly in between horses. Honestly, she probably loses about 3 or 4 lengths of positioning right in here. She was just behind the leaders and she backs up. So she can sit, she can finish, but she also doesn't need to be way, way out of it either in a race like this. She can sit a little bit closer. Second start off the bench, she's going to have more punch. First time Lasix will also help her here. 3 or 4 things that we like. She checks the boxes. Versatility, sits the trip in a race with a lot of speed. Zapple, 10 to 1 on the morning
let's
line.
get him.
Let's
10 to
get
1.
it.
Probably
It's
get a
go
good
time.
price too, even if this
I
horse
agree.
gets bet a little bit. They're really gonna crush
The
the
7.
7.
Yep. 7's
So,
going to get hit.
Yeah.
Zapple. And I really like horses coming in off of the synthetic races because their figures are lower always, and they get under bet. Like when they come in like this, people will look and say, this horse is probably overmatched, but
Well, it's
I don't
something
think
we're gonna
so.
have to get used to
Yeah.
also because with Belmont putting in a
Listen,
surface like this
and the
and
turfway racing getting better this year. We knew that we
yes.
saw it last year where their horses would leave the meet and go out and win other places. And now this year, the racing was stronger. It's deep, deep fields. So they're going to come out of those races and be a little bit more battle tested, having faced tough, big groups of horses. So Zapple for both me and Barry. I'll go right next door. There are two graded stakes races on the Keeneland Saturday card. So Barry and I can sort of finish up the Saturday card for you right now with races 8, 9, and 10. In the 8th race, it's the Elkhorn. It's funny. I don't recall almost ever playing Channel Maker. But he actually fits in this race because there's no speed. He won the race last year. I could see him sitting a pretty good trip. But the horse who I'm going to use in Stable Duel, who's just a total wild card and is in really nice form right now, is the number 7 House Street.
Okay.
This horse has only raced 3 times, and they've all been really good. And I like using horses like this, Barry, in the marathon distance in this division because there's not a ton of depth here. We
None.
don't have a lot of 1.5 mile or farther races. So you don't have a lot of established, really, really strong horses in these divisions for the most part. A horse like House Street, who's got a ton of upside, like he might be really good and be able to just take one more step forward and be right there with this group. Debut last year, April of 2022, on a good turf course, comes from way out of it and finishes a really good second in a field of 12. Then something goes wrong because he's off from April all the way to January. Shows back up in his first start at 4, wins off the bench, improves the speed figure, and then they stretch him out in March to 1.3 miles. The way he won that race, he was wide, like all the way. You really don't win turf races like that, especially going 1.3 miles. In the US here in North America, you're usually covered up or on the lead when you win
Right.
turf races. You just don't see horses sitting 3 or 4 wide all the way. Pratt jumps aboard, and now he goes third start off the bench. Like, is there another small step forward for him? I think he's really intriguing, and he's 10-1. So for Stable Duel, he'll only cost us 1,000 in our Stable Duel lineup. Just one of those horses who I want to be in front of the big race before after. If he's a good second or third even here, he'll be like in this division for a while, and he'll be a tough competitor. I want to try to get ahead of that.
For some reason, it seems like this horse was waiting for this kind of spot.
Right?
Going as long as he can on the turf, basically.
Yep.
And I think this horse has just had trouble finding a race that like this, that was not overly competitive where some monster was in there or, you know, this is the right spot,
It's a
I think.
great spot for a
Mhm.
tester to see how good you are, if
Right.
you fit, if
Yes.
you belong, because nobody overwhelms you or scares you. And if this horse is as good as they think, he can compete and at least be a top 3 horse in here. And I think House Street get the job done at 10-1. So I have one more in the 9th, and then Barry will finish it up in the 10th. And Barry, I think this is a horse that you and I both liked a little bit last year. So in the Ben Ali, I do think Skippy Longstocking is the horse to beat in here.
What?
He's super honest, but that's not who I'm going to give out. I'm going to give out Tawny Port, the number 7. So I feel like we played this horse in a spot or two. I think it was the Jim
Sure.
Dandy when we liked Tawny Port last year. We were
Yes.
talking at Saratoga. I think that's what it was because we were doing Stable Duel and Saratoga during the summer. We were talking about the Saratoga races as well. So he wins the Lexington last year. Then he does not run bad in the Derby.
No,
He was only
didn't. He ran
beaten
okay.
4 lengths. Like he really ran well there. He comes back in the Ohio Derby. He wins. Then he's in the Jim Dandy. He's third behind Epicenter and Zandon in a solid effort from him. And then they put him in the Pennsylvania Derby, and it's towards the end of his year, and he just doesn't fire, but put a line right through it because he's off from September to February. So he shows back up in February in a race that he needs in his first start back. And the race on March 18th was the one that I like because that's where he's going to take the step forward, second start off the bench. He does, but when you pull up the race and you sort of see the chart, it's another one of those merry-go-round races. The top 4 finishers, Last Samurai, Classic Causeway, Forza di Oro, and Vittorio, they were 1, 2, 3, 4 throughout this race. And they finished 1, 2, 3, 4. Look at Tawny Port, who was last through a lot of this race and closed to finish 5th, was the only horse that made up any ground at all. Now, the blinkers come on, get him a little more focus, a little more speed. He's going to make his 3rd start as a 4-year-old. So I'm expecting him to take one more step forward. Can he get back to where he was last year, right around the Jim Dandy? Does he have like one more step like that in him? If he does, in this small field, I think he could get the setup because, look towards the inside, the 2 trademark, he's going to go anytime the fractions are in like the 47 or 48 range, he's on the lead. If it's faster, he can sit a little bit. When they go like 46, you can see he can sit off the pace, but he can't really help it. He just wants to be right up on the lead if they're going 47 or 48, which I think they will be in here. Honestly, Pioneer or Medina won't be too far out of it either, especially from the rail down here. I think he's going to have to keep close. And then the 3, Call Me Fast, will be forwardly placed. So in a field of 7, I could see the 3 of them and then Skippy Longstocking trying to get positioning. We might have 4 in this field, all kind of jockeying for a spot, putting a little pressure on each other. And then, the 3 horses to the outside kind of all drop back and make one late run. Rattle and Roll wouldn't be a surprise, but he'll be a little shorter of a price. Happy American, I don't understand really what happened because he got good here. And then, I'm okay with one clunker, but then when you throw 2 of them in back to back, I'm not sure. Kind of process of elimination, right? I start going through this field and I end up as this horse as the value play, getting the trip in the right race. And seems like keep coming back to Pratt all weekend long, right?
Mm-hmm. He's set for a good weekend, I think. But he did get suspended, though, I think.
Yeah.
For 3 days. But I don't think they're in effect this weekend.
No,
so
I'm not.
he's good.
Usually they'll play out a little bit later. So Tawny Port for me, and Barry will close us out on Saturday in race number 10. What are we looking at in this 10th race, my friend?
Somewhat of a bailout, right?
Yep, bailout, turf sprint.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of right up my alley, and I ended up on number 5, Front Run the Fed. And usually I would never take a horse like this, but there's so much speed and really, really fast speed. And you got horses like Beer Can Man, who's coming off the layoff, should be really fresh and speedy.
Yep.
City Drifter probably will be up close. No Balls, the 6, definitely.
Yep. So great.
Gaston.
Yep.
Angston and Anguston.
Anguston will be. Yep.
Definitely. Mark to the Z probably will be up front.
Yep. They want to be.
Just Might definitely needs to be forwardly placed, and nobody listens.
Yeah. And the 2 of them are and because they're way out wide, it'll force them for sure from way out there. They don't have any choice.
And basically Front Run the Fed is the best closer in the race, and I think he should get a great trip here.
And he's classy. He's got some class too.
Yeah, he's definitely classy.
Like when you see a horse like this with his type of form, right? Don't be scared off. It's because of his running style.
Right.
More than it is because of his ability, it's because of his running style. Like, okay, 2 back, he's in the Breeders' Cup Mile. Right. So he's 120 to 1 against Modern Games. Don't even put a line right through that race. And then when you do, all of a sudden, this form starts to look a little bit better. Look at some of the horses he faced. Last time out, he was facing Air Force Red, who is really good in these circumstances when he's out on the front end. Air Force Red is a graded stakes winner. He came back and he was very competitive in the grade 1 Kilroe Mile. He's running into Modern Games, like we said, a couple starts back. He's facing like really, really tough company. This is a lot softer spot for Front Run the Fed. In Love, Gear Jockey, Fast Boat.
Casa Creed.
This is a good spot, man. It's a good find, too. Horse coming off the pace in a race loaded with speed. Raylu is aboard. Front Run the Fed, the number 5. Barry Spears came absolutely loaded this weekend with big price after big price after big price. My man, I love it. You came to the knife fight with the gun, right? Like one of those, right? That's what he was like. We're all playing in just like a different game than Barry is this weekend. He is ready to blow stuff up. So, my friend, couple fun weeks ahead as we get close to the Derby and the Oaks. Everybody will be talking big races over the next few weeks. We will be here with you again next week on Friday, 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern time. Matt DeSantis will be back with us. We'll pad that bankroll for you. We'll help you make a bunch of money, so that way you'll have a lot to fire away on Oaks and Derby weekend. Don't forget about all the big stable duel games this weekend. Saturday, Middleburg jump races, a free ride, $2,000 in cash prizes. Anything else you want to say before we get out of here, buddy?
Let's get this money.
Let's do it this weekend. Always love these Friday mornings with my good buddy Barry, Matt DeSantis. We missed you this morning, but we'll see you next week. Thanks so much, everyone, for hanging out with us. Good luck at Keeneland. Big Pick 6 carryover coming up. Stable duel. Get those entries in and play, race, win. We said hello to him. Now we say goodbye to Joey Cleveland.
Better, you want to spread your pony, not